Hello and welcome everyone to the Jim Kleiber Show. Today is Wednesday, December 2nd, 2020. It's 1 o'clock here in Michigan. The sun is out after a few days of cloudiness, and the snow is starting to melt a little bit. Yes, we have snow already, and that's how we do it here in Michigan in December. What to talk about today? So, I was watching an interview with Barack Obama yesterday, and maybe that's why I'm starting to speak like him. It was Stephen Colbert interviewing Obama. It was the second part of their interview, and he asked Obama if he missed being in office and if he wished he would have had a third term. And what Obama said was that he missed, if he could have been the person behind the scenes speaking, sitting at home in his pajamas and sweats or whatever, speaking into a microphone and having that microphone, put into somebody's ear monitor, and the other person could act out and do the part, really do the role, then yes, he would have loved it. But he talked about, he doesn't miss the suits, he doesn't miss the ties, he doesn't miss the dry cleaning and a lot of that formal show. And it got me thinking a lot about how our look can convey emotions to other people, can convey what we're thinking, can convey what we're feeling, can convey what we believe and don't believe, or at least can give people the impression that they know the answers to these questions. So another thing that also triggered it, I looked at a video I had recently and saw a few people noticed it on Twitter, on Periscope, and saw that a girl that I thought was cute looked at it, and I was like, wow, look at my hair, look at my beard. What kind of presentation am I giving? And just fascinated to imagine what people think when they see such a beard and such hair. So that's the personal side of it. Having walked around the neighborhood a lot over this pandemic, as the hair and the beard have grown in length, just seeing people's different reactions to me, even seeing how dogs react differently to me, perhaps with the beard and the hair, and just imagining or trying to imagine what people would be thinking. Okay, does it mean that he doesn't, he's depressed? Does it mean that he's feeling angry at the world? What emotions do we assume come along with a look like this? I think I often assume that people who have longer hair like this, that's a little unkept, and a beard that's not perfectly trim and everything like this, and longer, have a tendency to want to hide from the world. And perhaps that's actually something I've been doing. The irony is that this is my 80th show. I've been doing 80 shows. Gosh, that's over. It's 16 weeks. Yeah, 16 weeks. It's over about 4 months of doing the show. And before that, I was doing a lot of writing. I did a 5-week writing project that was live as well. So perhaps there's an element of hiding in there. I think a lot of times people who have this look may feel depressed or may feel trying to disconnected from the world in a way. And perhaps that's there as well. I don't know. But I think I can shock people sometimes when I'll come up to them and I look like this. And then I'm smiling and laughing and, being very kind and polite. And people, it's not the expectation of someone who wears something like that. So part of me likes playing with the mismatch on that. So that's, talking about what our hair can, what messages our hair and our kind of our look can convey to others. So what if I shaved it all on the sides? Does that make me look more serious? Does that make me look more goofy? Does that make me look what if I were bald and it was very clean, or a very, very clean cut? Does that make me look more professional, like I have more discipline and like I care more about what's going on? I mean, it's really interesting, I think. Really interests me how we can perceive differences in someone's personality and differences in someone's intentions and emotional state and values and all these different things based on hair. Right? I remember when I was in Tanzania, I went to the beach one weekend, and I had really long hair. I mean, my hair right now is long, but like I had it down to my shoulders. It was long, and I got it braided or put into cornrows or plaited or whatever you want to call it. But they put it, the little rows going back. And I came back to my roommate, and it was Monday, and I was going to go to work. And he says, "You can't go to work like that." I said, "What are you talking about?" I says, "It looks neat. I mean, before my hair was all over the place. Now it looks very like clean." And he says, No. The only people in Tanzania who wear cornrows like that are either footballers, like soccer players, musicians, or drug dealers. You're a consultant. You can't wear your hair like that. And I became so self-conscious that I took it out that day. I only wore it for like one day. I was so frustrated. I thought it looked really nice. And I find it fascinating that we have certain associations with certain looks, right? And what we assume that look communicates, or what it actually does communicate to us. And so you think about just the hairstyle, right? So somebody who is clean shaven, they look very clean. Oh, like they take really good care of themselves. Maybe not. I don't know. What else can we talk? So you got the hair, you got the beard for guys, but also like clothing selection, right? So if someone chooses clothes that fit or don't fit, or clothes that are expensive or not expensive, or clothes that are a certain color or another color, or clothes that have a certain level of formality or not a level of formality, we can assume so much about that person. Oh, if this person, that goes to a formal event and doesn't wear something formal enough, they just don't care enough about the event. Oh, they're disrespecting you because they didn't decide, they didn't wear a very formal outfit. I think about that when I went to a formal event at this ISAC alumni conference in Egypt. And because I was hoping to travel for a few months, I didn't want to carry a huge suitcase with me just because I was going to go to one formal event in Egypt. The rest of the time I was going to be in East Africa, and I was going to run workshops. And so I said, I really don't want to carry a suit. I really don't want to carry a big suitcase. And I couldn't fit a suit into my backpack. It just didn't seem to make sense to carry one suit for one event and then lug it around for the next 3 months in a backpack. And so I didn't bring it. I brought kind of like a really nice pair of jeans and a dress shirt and a tie. And I felt so embarrassed and so guilty when I went to the formal event because everyone looked really, really dressed up. I felt so embarrassed because I thought to them it would convey, I don't care enough about you that I'm going to disrespect you. But the reality was I just didn't. Most of them would fly in for the few days and they would fly back to their home. So for them to carry a suitcase, they were flying in, they were taking a shuttle or a taxi from the airport to the hotel, and then they'd drop off their luggage, and then they'd go to the conference for the week, and then they would take the shuttle or taxi back to the airport and fly back to their apartment, to their place in Europe or wherever they were coming from. And so for them, carrying something like that's not a big deal. But for someone who was planning to backpack around East Africa, so I think it amazes me how we can put pressure on ourselves to look a certain way because we don't want to give the impression to other people that we don't care about them or that we're disrespecting them. And at the same time, many of us have very different reasons why we look different ways, and they may not be fully explained. Perhaps somebody doesn't like wearing ties because they have maybe they have really sensitive neck, or maybe they had some problems with their neck, or maybe they had some problems with breathing. And so they don't want to have it. Maybe they have some trauma where they got choked when they were a kid or when they were an adult. And so therefore they don't want to have something around their neck because they could be choked with it. Perhaps people have trauma or experiences with wearing suits or formal wear. Perhaps people have trauma or experiences wearing dresses or skirts. It's just, I think we can so much assume, oh, it's because they don't care about us, or they don't care about themselves. That's why they're doing this. Well, that doesn't mean anything. Like, okay, he hasn't taken care of his hair because he doesn't care about himself. Yeah, maybe. Partially is I don't want to play with it. Partially is honestly, is like I think I'm losing a little bit on the sides, and I'm afraid to cut it and see how much has disappeared, right? And if I say that to my friends who have lost all their hair, they're like, "Oh, boo-hoo, like you with your full head of hair." Like, well, everyone started with a full head of hair, right? Even they started with it; it disappears. So, anyways, certain emotions that may play into it that we may be totally unaware of. Also, with the pandemic, it's like this is an opportunity to play with some of this stuff. I've never had a beard like this, and I probably never will have another beard like this. And I don't necessarily like how it looks, but I like playing with the concept. But it can come off as, oh, this guy's not serious, or he's not paying attention, he's not taking care of himself or something, which perhaps that's true in a way. How many of you, when you're on a Zoom call, or when you're doing some video call now, when you're working from home, how many of you are professional from the top up, but from the bottom down, you're wearing like shorts, or you're wearing pajamas or sweatpants or something casual? Right now I have on a wonderful pair of shorts that do not match. Well, you could argue this is not very formal, having a shirt. But I even saw online that somebody had they didn't have a suit jacket and they needed a photo for a passport, and somebody put like suit pants over the shoulders in a certain way that made it look like a jacket, and then had a tie going down. And they just needed, from the chest up for the passport photo, so that's what they got. But how much of someone's dress or someone's look communicates what we think about them? If I'm walking down the street and I see a guy in a suit, I'm probably not going to pay attention whatsoever. If I'm walking down the street and I see a guy in really baggy pants and he's got like a really a big puffy jacket on, and he's kind of lumbering in a certain way, I may pay a lot more attention. Like, what's this guy doing? Or especially if he's pre-COVID had a mask on, or like a ski mask or something. Like, what's going on? It's interesting how much we can assume and we can judge each other based on what we're wearing or how we're looking. How have you been judged based on what you're wearing? When has somebody been wrong, based on how you look? I mean, we can go towards the elements of skin color and some of those that are not so malleable. But in this conversation, I want to talk more about the things that you can change, right? So you can change your hairstyle in a way. You can change glasses. You can change clothes. You can change shoes, things like this. Are you a person who sometimes dresses too formally for an event, where you're the person who is more formal than everyone else around you? I had a coworker before who just loved wearing bow ties, just loved them, but worked in a couple organizations where people would get frustrated with him for wearing a bow tie and for looking so sharp, because it almost made them feel bad that they weren't dressed up enough, and like put pressure on them to dress up more. And he's like, no, I just like wearing bow ties. Like, I just like styling up. And so it can go both ways, not fitting in because you're too informal, or not fitting in because you're too formal, and the conflict that can arise from that. What else? Are you the person who typically dresses too informally to an event? Are you the person who wears too much color sometimes, or wears the wrong color for some people, right? So maybe I remember going to, what was it? I think we were in 7th grade, We were going to museums in Chicago. Coming from Detroit area, going to Chicago, it was a relatively big trip, 5-6 hours, 5 hours probably. And I think we went to the Field Museum and maybe another one. And I remember being, maybe Science Museum. I remember somebody telling us, one of the teachers or chaperones said, don't wear hats or don't wear this certain color, because if you do, it signals that you're in this gang. So what? Like, and so, sometimes we just wear the wrong color and it can send a signal to somebody that we have no idea that we're in a gang. Sending the totally wrong signal, right? We'd be completely oblivious to, from our standpoint of communicating that, but from the person receiving it, they may be like, oh yeah, this person they hate me and they want to get me. It's like, what? I didn't know that red equaled this gang. I had no idea. I mean, in some countries, like legally, you're not allowed to wear something. I remember going to, I think it was Trinidad and Tobago. It's illegal to wear camouflage. What? like army, military camouflage? I'm pretty sure it's illegal to wear that. So somebody may show up just being like, oh yeah, this is my cool like camo shirt. And nope, thrown in prison. What? Like, maybe they don't go that extreme. Maybe there's like a fine or something. And why? Why would that? Because they're conveying that they're in the military? I don't know. I don't know why they came up with that law or that rule. But I know that many times we may break these laws or norms without even knowing it, because that's not our intention. But people can assume very strongly what our intention is. Has this ever happened to you where you wore something and people assumed that you had a certain intention that you didn't have? For example, again, like going to an event and not wearing a tie, and they assume, wow, you must not care about us. What? Because I didn't wear a tie? No, I just didn't have any ties, because I just moved locations and I didn't bring my ties with me. I'm still moving in. I don't know where they are. Oh, you just don't care about us. What? I didn't care about you, so I'd go spend, an hour or two in a store so I could buy a tie right before the event. Like, what else? Like, maybe this has happened a lot on Zoom calls now, right? So now that we're working from home a lot, people probably have very different dress styles. And what does it say to colleagues? Because I think we have a lot of expectations in the workplace, but the workplace is now home. And so a lot of these expectations are mixing and merging in a way where if I am sitting at home, if I go to work, maybe I'm supposed to work in an environment where I wear a suit and tie all the time. But if I'm at home, putting on a suit and tie all the time feels really strange, because at home, I don't wear suits and ties. I only wear them when I'm about to go somewhere else. So to put on a suit and tie and come down into a basement feels very weird. And so it's kind of this juxtaposition. Okay, maybe I have a suit and tie on for work while I'm at home, but then I go upstairs to eat lunch at the kitchen table and I'm wearing my suit and tie eating lunch at the kitchen table. It just feels super weird. Or maybe I go out and get the mail in a suit and tie. And so these kind of cultural norms and expectations swirling together in a way. How many people don't, how many of you wouldn't want to be a politician because you have to wear a suit all the time? Or don't want to be on TV because you have to wear a suit all the time, or you have to be professional and formal all the time? Goodness, I've thought about it. I've looked at being a politician. I thought, I have to wear a suit and tie every single day. Why? Why do we still have to wear suits and ties? Kind of a side note, sometimes these norms and expectations can carry into countries where it doesn't really make sense. Living in Tanzania, I noticed that people would wear a lot of black suits and black shoes, like dress shoes. And I'm thinking, this is especially in Dar es Salaam, near the coast, it was very sandy and kind of dusty. What? Why would people wear black shoes in a very sandy, dusty place? It doesn't make any sense. I had to polish the shoes before I left the house. And when I arrived at the office, I had to repolish them because they were already dusty. They already had this brown layer on top of them. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And why wear the suits? It's so hot and humid in Tanzania. It's very kind of tropical climate. And why would I have to wear like a heavy black suit? It doesn't make any sense. But cultural norms, and then, if you're not wearing it, then maybe you're respecting or disrespecting, you don't care about us. A lot of those things can be said. Especially because you're the white man. So you're the white man and you're not wearing a suit? Like, That comes into another thing, which is not such a big thing here in the US, I think, but maybe it is. What I noticed in living in East Africa is that it was very, very, very important that I would iron my shirts properly. My dress shirts, my t-shirts, everything. That all my shirts would be ironed properly. Whereas here in the US, I haven't felt a lot of that condemnation if I didn't. And maybe it has to do with the technology, right? So a lot of people here in the US use dryers. And when you use a dryer, the shirt ends up being wrinkly, but not with very strong wrinkles. Whereas in East Africa, most people hang their clothes up on a line. And when you hang it up on a line, it gets very strong wrinkles. And if you don't iron it, it's very obvious you didn't iron. So perhaps there's that element to it, where it's like, well, you didn't take the time. I took the time to iron and you didn't take the time. So maybe there's this kind of unfairness to it. I don't know. What clothing norms are you currently breaking or forcing yourself to follow? What kind of stylistic norms? Would you like to grow your beard out? Would you like to grow your hair out? Would you like to cut your hair? Would you like to cut your hair on one side? Would you, what would you like to do to play with your look, but you're afraid that it may send the wrong message to other people? Other people could be your employee, your employer. It could be your community. It could be your family. It could be the person you're in a relationship with. Maybe you want to wear like short shorts or shorter skirt, but you're afraid that the people will assume that it means you just want to go out and have sex with everyone. But really, you just you like having a shorter short. You think it looks nice and it also feels nice. And maybe it has nothing to do with going out and wanting to have sex with other people. I remember when I was traveling to Burkina Faso in West Africa, I did a 3-week program there. And our professor that was going to take us warned us. He said, girls don't wear short shorts, because if you wear short, people will assume that you're a prostitute. What? Like, really? And Burkina Faso is a conservative place. I think it also has a large Muslim population, but even Christian population. And I think the idea was you're supposed to wear shorts or skirts or anything below the knee. And anything above the knee would give the impression that you might be a prostitute, because the people there who do wear it above the knee often are the prostitutes. And so it's fascinating how one little clothing decision can convey an identity, a belief system, a value system, emotional desires and wants, just from one piece of clothing. So I spent a lot of time talking about how to communicate emotions with words, because I think when we communicate them with words, we can give higher precision to what we're feeling, and we can help clarify some of this confusion. And at the same time, whether we are expressing our emotions or not through words, we are still expressing emotions. We are still conveying emotional messages to other people. It just may not be the message that we're intending to send. So, again, people may look at the beard and hair that I'm wearing right now and assume, people will assume certain things about my emotional state. And how often is that correct? And how often is it, even if it's somewhat correct, how often does it miss something? It's not getting the full picture. Because the thing is, when we communicate just physically, we are missing a lot of the precision that we can get if we communicate with words as well. Because you may see this and you don't really know what the story is. You don't know why. You don't know what the history is. You don't know the intentions behind it were. You can just assume, boom, this. It's the same thing with a short skirt. It's the same thing with a unbuttoned blouse a little bit. It's the same thing with a tie. It's the same thing with a bow tie or a tuxedo. It's the same thing with fancy shoes or kind of dress, tennis shoes, I had a problem with my feet in 2009 or so when I was living in Tanzania. So that's like 11 years ago. And so ever since, I really shifted a lot to shoes that had a wider toe base, and because of that, I don't like wearing a lot of the traditional dress shoes. And so somebody may look at me and go like, oh, this guy doesn't even care about shoes. Like, what's wrong with him? No, I care about my feet. And that's why I'm wearing these. It's not because I don't care about fashion or because I don't care or respect you. It has more to do with what's going on inside of me. But how often do we get into those conversations? Sometimes it's a stranger that we just judge. Sometimes it's a close person that we judge. And we don't ask why. We don't ask what are they feeling and why are they doing what they're doing? Maybe somebody's wearing those shoes because they don't have any money to go out and buy new shoes. All right, we got another, yo, Seth Rogen, what's good? Get a lot of Seth Rogen comments. It must be the beard and the hair. Yeah, man. So, again, talking about how the look can give certain impressions, right? So even just having the hair and the beard can make people think that I'm a different person. Like if I get rid of this stuff, people won't make the Seth Rogen comment anymore. Yeah. So how do you get judged based on how you look? Again, we're not talking so much about the characteristics you can't change, the traits you can't change right now, but the ones that you can, like the hair, the makeup, perhaps, the shirt, the clothing and shoes and things. Posture. I mean, we can talk about posture too. What does posture convey? So, yeah, I think we communicate how we feel or how other people think we feel, whether we want to or not. So this idea of, I'm not a person who really talks, expresses my emotions. You express them. You just don't know that you're expressing them. You're just not aware. You're just not conscious. You're just not using your words to express them. But you're expressing them in many ways. Today we just talked about the look with the clothes and the hair and other things like that. But like I said, there's posture, there's tone, there's tempo of speaking, there's eye contact. There's so many different ways that we express how we're feeling, or other people assume how we're feeling based on these movements. So I'm slightly distracted by all the comments. Anyways, I appreciate y'all joining in, and I hope that this made a little bit of sense, talking about how we can tweak our look to convey different emotions, but at the same time, people will assume we are communicating things that we may not be intending to communicate. So just giving a reminder to, if you can, try to communicate more with words, because words can provide more accuracy or precision, diving a little deeper into what we're actually feeling, what we're actually wanting, what we actually believe, bringing more clarity to it than just leaving it to physical assumptions. So, all right, y'all. Hope you have a good one, and have a wonderful Wednesday afternoon.